following show contains adult content. It's not our intent to offend anyone, but we want to inform you that if you are a child under the age of 18 or get offended easily, this next show may not be for you. The content, opinions, and subject matter of these shows are solely the choice of your show hosts and their guests, and not those of the Entertainment Network or any affiliated stations. Any comments or inquiries should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for listening.
Hey everyone, and welcome to 50 Shades of Bullshit. I'm your host, Christine Lalonde, and this is the podcast where we uncover the truth about online dating. Now let's begin.
Hey everybody, I'm Christine, and I have Christina on with us today, and this is 50 Shades of Bullshit. So, hi everyone. Christina, thank you for being here again. I'm super excited.
Thank you for having me back yet again.
I know, you're like a regular now.
It feels really good.
You've become a Janice with us.
I'm a fan. If I can aspire to be a Janice, that is what I will aspire to be.
There you go. Well, Jada is not here with us at the moment. She might be able to pop in. She wound up having to do some work that had her out of the house, and she may not be back in time. And the last she texted me was that traffic was terrible, and so we'll see what happens.
Cross our fingers.
Yeah, I mean, I love Jada here. We hate it when she's not. So here we are.
Here we are.
Well, how was your week? I haven't seen you since last Thursday.
Too long, Christine, too long. It's been a really good week. I have some friends in town from Florida, and we've been enjoying peak leaf season in Asheville, North Carolina, Blue Ridge Mountains.
Oh my gosh.
It's magical.
I bet it is.
It's definitely my favorite week out of the entire year. To me, this is the most wonderful time of the year, more so than Christmas.
I was recently in the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia, and I really love it. It's quite stunning, and I can't even imagine what it looks like with all the foliage.
Foliage.
Yeah, foliage changing.
It's a tough word.
Well, all of a sudden I thought, well, am I talking about tinfoil or am I talking about leaves? Good God.
What about you? Tell me about your week.
It's interesting. I've taken on a little project that is investigative. I don't really want to talk about it yet, but let's just say I'm going to do a blog that is like secret, that is like anonymous.
Oh.
And I'm doing some like dating style investigation stuff, so I can kind of do some undercover. I know it sounds, but I'll be able to talk about it.
This to me is like the dark corners of the internet. Like, what can we find? I'm very excited to learn more, but we'll keep it on the hush hush for now.
You off camera, off podcast, only because I'm not ready to talk about it yet.
Yeah.
But it's going to be funny and interesting. So
I support this.
We'll see.
Hopefully it'll provide some content like what you provided last week. That was a real doozy.
Oh, with our email. I love that. They were so cute. I thought it was interesting, and I laughed really hard when I got the email, and the whole time I'm thinking, this is the best ever.
Did you ever hear from them? Hopefully they listened to the episode.
I hope they listened too. As of right now, I have not gotten a response yet. But we will keep you updated when it comes. So hopefully we will.
Great.
Well, Christina is back with us today because we are talking about the bloody truth is the title today. For both men and women. This is to help everyone. what we're going to be talking about today is understanding the 4 stages of the female menstrual cycle so that it can enhance your relationship and deepen your connection. And I got to start with the fact that when I was growing up, it was shameful and embarrassing. And I have a story. When I was about, I don't know, 14 or 15, maybe 15, I had to go down to our local co-op, which was the grocery store. And I lived in a very, very small town. And I used to get teased about fucking everything. Didn't matter what it was, I got teased. So I was always worried that somebody would know that I was on my period because it was humiliating. It was embarrassing to me. I don't know why. I just thought it was shameful, and could have been my upbringing, the religious upbringing. But I didn't know anything about it. I just knew I had a fucking period once a month, and it would last for like 7 days. And the first day I'd have to leave school because I was in so much pain. I remember days it was so cold outside that I'd have to walk across this field to get to my house. And it wasn't far. It was maybe the length of a football field. And I just remember it being so motherfucking cold, and I was in so much pain that I could barely walk across the field, and just nobody to ever talk to me about it. But this one time I was in the grocery store, the co-op, and I had to buy my own pads. And it's 1984 or 3 or something like that, right?
Okay.
And what my male best friend's brother, okay, walks in and is standing right there where I'm at the cashier checking out, and I'm dying inside. I'm literally dying inside because I'm worried about what he's thinking. I'm worried about what he's going to tell all the other boys. I'm worried that they're going to tease me mercilessly the next day. It was just traumatizing. So as an adult, as I grew up, every single time I needed to buy any kind of tampons or pads or anything, or any personal hygiene stuff, no matter if I only needed that, if I needed nothing else, I would have to load up,
just like blend it into your pile of shit.
And then when I put it on the conveyor belt, I'd put it under and around things. So and I wouldn't go to check out if it was a male, and if it was a male, I would stand there dying the whole time. So I think that educating our girls and our women about this is not a shameful thing. This is
and our men.
And yes, and our men, that this is, something that we have no motherfucking choice in.
And also, it's the most natural thing that's been going on from the beginning of times. Like, fucking get over it. Let's just talk about it. Let's normalize it. Like, I have no idea why it's taboo. I mean, I have some theories that are very feminist theories around like suppressing women's power, because there's a lot of power in knowing about the magic and empowerment behind a female cycle. Being able to work with it versus against it, which a lot of us do. Unfortunately, your story is every woman's story at some point. I'm not the only one, which you are not the only one. It is not your family. It is our culture. You see it on TV where people are like, oh, she must be PMSing, or it's that time of the month.
Yeah, I don't like
There's shame and just disgrace everywhere. It's considered dirty versus, there's nothing dirty about it, right? Again, it is like, you don't consider it dirty when I bleed from a cut. So why is this dirty? It's been happening. It's the reason why you all are born.
Right.
It's like, if it didn't exist, you wouldn't exist. So let's just cut this shit out and talk about it, because if we're not talking about it, that a lot of women are not being heard, are not being seen, aren't able to get the medical attention that they need, and there's so much misinformation about it. It literally is like the ideas around first of all, the idea that the menstrual cycle itself is just bleeding is misinformation, right? The menstrual cycle itself is 28 days. Well, I say 28-ish days, right? Because give or take, people have different cycles. Mine comes every 25 to 27 days. Some people's come every 35 days, right? So the, I guess, average cycle is around 28 days. And there's actually 4 different stages within the menstrual cycle. And when we are thinking about, and what we're taught about the menstrual cycle is it's deduced to just bleeding. Like, oh, this person's not pregnant. They are not with child. Right. And this has been shamed and taboo from the beginning of times and inflamed through patriarchy, unfortunately. And it's time that we learn about it. Like, it wasn't really until about a year and a half ago, and I'm 35, that I even understood that there was 4 different stages of the menstrual cycle. I always thought I was like, everything's normal. Oh, I'm bleeding. Everything's normal. Everything's the same. But like, my body was not responding the same throughout those 4 weeks. And it's also because we live in a very masculine world where we have to be steady, be consistent. When men also go through hormonal cycles, it's just theirs is within a 24-hour period. So it seems like they are way more consistent because it's happens so fast, where ours happens more slowly and you can notice the changes. Right. So we can talk about the male cycle as well, the male hormonal cycle as well. But yeah, unfortunately, the taboo and the shame is for real. It's legit. Over half people were publicly shamed for their period, whether leaking through their pants. And all of us women were indirectly shamed around our period through witnessing others being shamed, through media, through what we're told, through what we're not told, ultimately.
Well, I think I think it's vile and disgusting when people say, oh, she just must be on her period because she is responding to something or is upset about something or is not, maybe at her peak for that day. Maybe she has had a lot of shit going on and all of a sudden she can't take no more shit. And she's like, fuck this. This is bullshit. Yeah. And I don't have to be happy today. And then all of a sudden some asshole says, oh, what are you, PMSing? Yeah. It's like, no, motherfucker, I'm actually not. I'm just sick of you.
Exactly.
So I can't stand.
And that doesn't reduce or belittle my experience in any way, shape, or form. Right. It does. I am more sensitive and have less patience, but that doesn't mean my feelings aren't valid. I'm just trying to get to them and put up with less of your bullshit. So ultimately, it's a reflection of your idiocy.
You. of the person that you're dealing with. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Now, before we get into the 4 stages and before we talk about the men's thing, I do want to address what Mickey, one of our listeners, did say. And they said that, gross, disgusting, can't stand it. I've hated it since the first one. Well, we all have our own feelings that surround it. Mine was embarrassed and humiliated when everybody leaks. Nothing is created to fit right or to work right. And we get, that shit goes everywhere and it's not fun and we have to deal with it and it's painful and we ache and we hurt and we're over it. And I get where Mickey's coming from. How do you think, Christina, do we even try to think about it in another way? I mean, how do we even deal with this kind of thing?
Deal with hating it?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's experience is so different. Maybe Mickey has endometriosis, which is exceptionally painful, or maybe they have really heavy periods, which can be really inconvenient and overwhelming. Yeah. And cause leakage when then you have to worry about all of that. And it's just, I wish I didn't have to deal with this, right? Because we're trying to live our lives and this just seems to be getting in the way.
Right.
You know, there are a few things that I would say is that there is a lot of beauty behind the menstrual cycle. And we can talk through that whenever we are talking about the 4 stages. A lot of what we view around our periods has been programmed into us from society. So we have this preconceived notion that periods are dirty, that they're gross, especially whenever the pad and tampon came out. The entire marketing around it was sanitary napkins, stay clean, don't let anybody see what's going on down there. Nobody will know, continue to live your life, right? So there's so much messaging around periods are bad, periods are gross. And if only you never had to have your period again. And that is possible. I know plenty of women who get on birth control to stop their period because it's so painful, because it's so inconvenient and it's so heavy, or maybe they have excessive bleeding. And that makes their lives a lot easier, you know? And so there are options out there if you are dealing with a period that is just too much for us to live our daily lives, which often happens.
Right.
Then there are some options out there. But what I would say is if you really hate it, and I would say educate yourself around the magic and beauty around it and see if your mind changes. You never know what you're going to learn. Yeah. See, it's brutal. And then we are expected to show up to work and act like nothing's going on. Thank you, Nikki, for sharing, right? We have to live our daily lives as if nothing is changing within our bodies. There's zero recognition to what women go through. And we still have to perform at an excessive level.
Yeah, like Mickey said in response to what Christina had just said, yes, that the flow is heavy and that it's like a crime scene, and it's just incredibly inconvenient. It's incredibly exhausting to deal with it. And I have to say that I'm incredibly grateful that I am past it.
Yeah.
I went through menopause, and that's not a joy either. But, you know, once you get past that, I have to say it is so much easier.
Yeah.
You know, oh, Misty has joined us. She said she's never been a fan of that time of the month. Yeah. I mean, we just go through so much, emotional, mental, physical, that it's challenging because we have to do it every fucking 3 weeks.
Yeah. It's
every 3 weeks we have to deal with it.
A ritual ceremony that we prepare for and go through every single month. And it is a lot to take on. But I will also say that I feel like it's a lot because we aren't allowed to work with our flow. We have to consistently work against it to survive in this world. So hypothetically, if we were living in, we'll say, a matriarch world where they honored the female menstrual cycle and it included it seamlessly into our daily lives and we would be living a much different experience. We would probably welcome it. We would probably be able to rest when we need to rest, be honored when we have extreme clarity and wisdom during that week prior to bleeding. That is when we actually have our most clarity and intuition come to light, which is why we can't put up with so much shit, because we're just we fucking know, just stop. Yeah. So, we live in a world that doesn't allow us to work with it, and we always are working against it. And that can cause a lot of internal conflict, emotional and mental pain, aside from the physical pain that comes with it.
Yeah. So let's talk about these 4 stages that you were mentioning.
Yeah. Let's do it. So the 4 stages, or what I like to refer to as the 4 seasons, you can think about it as we experience seasons throughout the year, right? So you have winter, spring, summer, and fall. And when we think about these different seasons, even when we look at nature, or even how typically most humans respond to these different seasons, you can understand like where you are in your stage, right? So winter is associated with when we are bleeding, right? And that is the time where we're internal, we're resting, we're conserving our energy, we're prepping for coming back to life in a way, right? So as winter's happening in nature, right, like all of the nutrition in trees goes down into the roots. So we're going really internal back into the earth in that way. And then we jump into spring, which are usually days 7 through 14. And spring is where we start getting a bunch of our energy back and we're feeling alive again. And we're feeling more sociable and more proactive and more initiative, more energized, more, right? So there's a lot more that we're like coming back into springtime, where when we come out of winter, for those of you who live in cold places, what happens? Everybody's at the park. Everybody's in a good mood. Everybody's out playing together and socializing, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the spring aspect of it. And then we move into summer, which is the peak of that, which is around when we are ovulating, right? That is when we are most aroused. That is when we find ourselves, we're feeling ourselves the most, like in the sense of we actually feel more attractive during that time of the month, which there is actually some science behind that. Because of our hormones that are pumping through our body, we actually do become more attractive in the sense of like our skin is more clear, our eyes are brighter, like our hair is more lustrous. Like there's a lot of,
physically, we are meant to be that at that time because it's our body chemistry telling men's chemistry that we can get fertilized at that time.
Exactly. Fucking beautiful. When I think about the science behind it, it's almost like it has its own intelligence in a way.
It's amazing. Yeah.
It is amazing. So that's summertime. It's our hot girl summer, right? We're trying to get pregnant and our body's trying to get pregnant, I should say. Maybe not intentionally.
Maybe not intentionally, but yes.
Exactly. And then after that happens, we move into fall, which is prepping for winter again, which is our PMS stage, right? So progesterone starts to kick in. We start to become more relaxed and sleepy. Maybe we want to cuddle more instead of initiate sex more. Maybe we want to do take-in instead of going out and socializing. So there's a lot of different aspects that our period plays roles in our life at work, socially, at home, when conflict happens, when you don't have enough batteries to do all the things that you probably planned to do at the beginning of your cycle, like when you're in springtime and you're making all these plans for the month, and then fall and winter come and you're like, fuck, I overcommitted. And so like if you can actually track your cycle, you can actually plan your social calendar. If you are looking to get some job interviews, plan it around when you're ovulating. That is when you're sharp as shit and you are confident and you're feeling really good. Like there's a way to actually work with your menstrual and actually apply it to life, not just your love life, but also all aspects of your life.
Well, that's great. So Misty had a question which I can answer on my side, and let's see if you have an answer for her too. Misty asked, so what happens to these seasons when the period stops? Okay, for me, it's hot girl season all the time.
Like literally?
Literally. My skin is better than it ever was. I feel I have more energy than I've ever had. What else? I have more desire all the time, more than I ever did in my life.
What I'll say about that is there's such a misconception that when you hit menopause, your sex drive ends. And I heard the opposite.
Peaked. Peaked. Now, a friend of mine said that her body kind of dried up, that her skin got dry. She started wrinkling more. She, dried up vaginally. It needs more help there. I never experienced that. My skin's still supple. I still don't have wrinkles. I'm 55. I don't have any of those things. And maybe someday it will happen, but I don't have that. And it could be because for me, I didn't decline when my period went away, meaning stop having sex, stop working out, stop, doing life. I went deeper into it, had more sex, had more energy, worked out more, did all these things. So for me, it's only gotten better,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I know a lot of women who I look to greatly for wisdom who have said that menopause is the best thing that's happened to them. It's so
Yeah.
liberating. It's
Yeah.
so liberating, mainly because they aren't sought after for sex as much, not in the sense of like you're not attractive, but like there is the like, we know you're not fertile and can't have children anymore, so we actually value you as a human being and not as an object that our body biologically may be trying to procreate with. So there's like a level of freedom that comes along with no longer having your period, and an exceptional amount of wisdom that comes through that level of experience.
Wisdom. Yeah, exactly. I will say though, with dating, if a man finds out, because they always say, can you get pregnant? Blah, blah, blah. And I
Yeah.
say, or they say, do you want more kids? And I say, baby, I'm fucking 55.
Yeah.
Why would I want more kids? And
Yeah.
no, it's not possible. And I got to tell you, the more that men find out that I cannot have kids, that I don't have my period anymore, they're like way turned on about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because then they can have sex without condoms or have to worry about the pressure of getting somebody pregnant without necessarily wanting to get them pregnant. Yeah, there's also a lot of liberation for men in women in menopause.
Yeah, exactly.
Freedom.
No more birth control pills. That was the hardest thing for me. Birth control pills really fucked with my hormones, and I actually went off of birth control pills probably about 10 plus years. It's been 10 plus years before I had menopause. After I got pregnant with my daughter Ella, who is 16 now, I no longer took birth control, and I my whole life got so much hormonally better without them.
And vibrant. Yeah, I refuse to take birth control pills. I had a very similar experience. Birth control made me extremely depressed.
Yeah,
like
me too.
Extremely depressed, and put on a bunch of weight, even though nothing changed in my lifestyle. And it was just like, I felt like I wasn't able to live my life. Like nothing was exciting. It was just really dull and sad and dark whenever I was on birth control. Now I know birth control helps many, many people. So I'm not, I'm not.
It just didn't work for you.
It did not work for me. No. Well, I take this back. I did Paragard, which is the copper IUD, and that worked really well for me.
Okay.
I had cramps for the first time ever, but other than no hormonal birth control did I ever have success on mentally and emotionally, or even physically.
I tried the coil that you're talking about. It fucked me up bad.
Oh no, what happened?
Bad. Extreme things happened to me. Extreme.
Yeah.
I had massive flow I'd never had before. It went on for weeks and weeks, and then it would stop for 2 or 3 days and then go on for weeks and weeks and stop for a few days and go on for fucking weeks. It was horrible. It fucking messed with my mood. It messed with my everything.
Yeah.
I gained weight really severely on it. It was terrible for me. And I could feel that fucking thing pinching me 24/7.
Oh my God. Yeah. I did. There was always like this ping. I don't know if it was just manifested because psychologically, but I was always like, I know something's in there and it's like slightly uncomfortable. But yeah, it worked for me for the time being, but I don't do that. I don't use it anymore. I actually just track my cycle, and with my partner, I have the red days. So like there's 5 days between day 10 after I start my period, day 10 after I start my period to day 15, 16 is when they're my red days. We wear protection. And I take ovulation tests throughout that time. So I know when I'm ovulating, because a lot of people actually don't know that you only can get pregnant really 1 day out of the week.
Yeah. It's
the
very
key here. Yeah. It's a small window, but the key here is that sperm can actually last up to 5 days in in your cervix, in your vaginal canal, in your uterus, which
Mhm.
also is fascinating to me, because if it doesn't, like if sperm were to be ejaculated outside of the body and have nowhere to go, like if on a sock, it only lasts 15 minutes. They only live for 15 minutes, but they live for 5 days
inside your body. Fucking wild.
It's wild.
It is wild.
It's wild.
Mickey did ask a good question. Do men use the fact that women can't get pregnant to go condom free? Says that STDs can still be gotten without condoms. Be safe, people. And yes, I do agree. Men tend to want to then go condom free. And if I'm in a long-term relationship and we are both, for me, in the beginning of a relationship, I think it's really important to make sure that you've been both tested and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, no, I don't play that game, Mickey. That shit has to be wrapped up. Get out of here with that.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, so condoms are, yes, they will. I feel like most men will use any excuse not to wear a condom, if we're honest.
Right.
But yeah, no, that doesn't, just because you can't get pregnant doesn't mean you get to not wear a condom. And also what I will say, interesting enough, where the highest STD rates are is actually in retirement homes.
Yes.
So
yes, that shit goes round and round with
Misty.
those old folks.
You are correct.
Oh my God, Misty is hilarious. Misty said, "How long does sperm last if swallowed?"
That's a valid question. I don't know.
I'll tell you, Misty. A millisecond, because I'm throwing up. I'm not.
Hey,
nope. No can't do for me.
Yeah.
Nope. I can't even get that shit away from my face.
Yeah.
I'm very weird about it. If it's on me, I gotta get it off fast. It cannot go near my face or my mouth. It's like, people, no, that shit's gross. It smells gross. No.
We don't want to shame men's sperm.
No, they cannot. They don't.
We were just talking about
ever be shamed.
Gross.
Fuck that.
Hey, we gotta live through leadership.
Yeah, well, this is the thing.
I will say it's not for everybody, and that's okay.
And I tell men all the time, listen, when it comes to that, I'm sure yours is lovely, but I have an emotional and mental disorder.
No.
When it comes to sperm.
You do not. We all have preferences. Okay.
I can't. Oh my God. It just doesn't work for me.
There's plenty of other places that we can put it. It doesn't have to be
until put it where I can't see it.
That's awesome.
God.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So you were saying, so funny when my friends call me and they know I'm in the middle of a podcast. It's Janice. She's so funny. Oh, Janice is on her way to a date. So I'm curious what she is. Oh,
tell her we need an update to talk about on the podcast now.
Right. You were saying earlier that there's something about men that we can discuss too.
Oh, yeah. So the men's hormonal cycle happens within a 24-hour period, in the sense of their testosterone peaks right in the morning and then slowly dissipates throughout the day. And then estrogen starts to come in. So yes, both men and women have estrogen and testosterone, just at different levels. Right. And that's kind of what makes us men and women, or, from a bodily function perspective. What I find really interesting is that don't quote me, it's a really high number. I want to say 69% of medcations and medical studies are done on you're such a child.
I'm a 12-year-old boy inside of my body.
Did she just say 69?
I don't know if you know that. 69.
So a very high percentage of medical studies, including pharmaceuticals and stuff, are only done and tested on men. And they had this understanding that men are actually more consistent test subjects than women. And that's why they have chosen, for the history of medical for the time, as long as it's been around, that men have been the test subjects. But when they have been doing studies recently and including more women in the studies, they actually have found that women are actually more consistent because men's cycles happen so fast within a day, where women's are more consistent, like slowly happening, so they can actually do longer testing and have consistency. So the thing about men's hormonal cycle that I find really fun is to understand that when testosterone is high in the morning, that means they're more argumentative and more motivated and driven, less social in the morning. Mm-hmm. And then as it starts to fall throughout the day, like in the afternoon, they are becoming more social. And then in the evening, they are more complacent. So I actually read this article. I don't know how true this is. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. But they said, like, if you have something to bring up with your male partner that may cause conflict, bring it up in the evening. Yep. When they are not so high in their testosterone, which means they are not so much in a fighting mood. And I mean, that kind of sounds like manipulation to me, but maybe they're just more calm-minded and willing to hear you.
Hey, they become more women-like later in the day.
Sure, we can call it that. Yeah, they're more, I guess, understanding and willing to hear people.
Oh, I love Country Corner.
Women should leave men alone in the morning. That's perfect. Yes, good advice. Thank you for your comment.
Yeah, he says so. Women should leave men alone in the mornings.
In the morning. That's
either that or have sex with them in the morning.
Exactly. That is also when their sex drive is their highest.
Yeah,
exactly.
Just get it in the morning, and then when you're middle of it, just like, oh, baby.
There goes the morning wind. Exactly. And then the same thing can be taken into consideration with women. So when I was talking about how you can actually use these 4 different stages to be more in tune with your partner, when you, as a female, educate yourself on the 4 different stages, you can plan your life better. You can know when to have certain conversations, when not to. You can set better expectations and standards with your male partner or female partner at any rate. Right. And then from a male perspective, it allows you to actually be more in tune and in sync, right? No pun intended, with your female partner. So if you're tracking her cycle with her and you're like, I'm noticing you're in the spring, summertime, and you're making all of these plans for when you're in the fall, winter, like, let's just kick it down a notch because we don't want to overstimulate you during that time. Right? So it's like being way more in tune, being able to anticipate each other's needs a lot more, understanding your partner so much more. Like, if we could understand, the more we educate ourselves on this, the more you can actually get along with your partner when you know, like, where they are and understand what the needs are during that time.
It's not any woman's fault when she goes through a hormonal change that creates a different kind of headspace or mood or feeling, or it's not her fault. And what pisses me off a lot is that a lot of, and I'm just going to say men because they don't understand as much. Okay. They're not going through what we're going through. It just upsets me when they're like blaming shit on PMSing or saying, oh, what are you, like, blah, blah, blah. No, just be sensitive and give a fuck about what we feel. We can be in a bad fucking mood even if we're not on our period.
Yeah. Oh, we sure can. We sure can. I also like to equate it to like how our uterus is like building up to, like, how our uterus is building during spring and summer, right? To prep for a fertilized egg to attach. And then when our body recognizes we're not pregnant, it starts to release that lining. So the lining becomes thinner. So does our patience. So does our tolerance. So does our fogginess, in the sense of like, we can just see through bullshit so much more whenever our uterus lining is being shed. And so there's a really strong correlation to the mood, to our actual uterine function throughout the month as well, which to me is ingenious. But yeah, to your point, like being upset that maybe your partner doesn't want to have sex because she's just not in the mood, or maybe she doesn't want to go out as much during, week 3 of her cycle because she's
Right.
more tired. Like the level of exhaustion that takes over a female body when they're prepping for their bleed is like so intense for a lot of women. And then whenever they are bleeding and then they're in pain, like there's so much that is going on physically in those times. And it's really like, look, it's actually not, it's a lot, but it doesn't have to be like, it's not like this, like, oh my God, it's such a big deal. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. If you normalize it, then you can work with it instead of against it from a personal perspective and from a partner perspective. And when you can be like so in sync and in tune with your partner in that way, it creates such a beautiful relationship, like to the point where my partner is able to anticipate my needs whenever he knows what stage of my cycle I'm in. I'm able to openly communicate where I am with him, or not just with him, but like where I am in my cycle openly with him, which is such a blessing because for so many of my previous relationships, that was never a conversation that was supported to have, or they would just shut down, or they'd be like, yeah, whatever. And like be weird about it.
Oh, you're on your period? Damn, can I have a blowjob now? It's
you're
like,
so right. Get the fuck out of here. Right. You're right.
How many times have you all heard that? Let's all raise our hands.
Oh, you're so right.
I
This makes
see
me so sad that I have to raise my hand.
For million, trillion
Not anymore,
women.
though. Not anymore. So I am proud to say I am with an emotionally mature man.
Right. Yeah, that's
right.
Nowadays, I've actually I've seen it on TV shows. I've seen it in movies. I didn't know about this. This is so cool. They're doing period parties when they get their period for the first time, and they have a party, and the funny thing about it, which is probably not appropriate, but it's funny. Women have been the butt of a joke a million times when it comes to the period. So turning the tables sometimes is kind of funny, but I saw this one where they do a period party and they do a cake and the inside's red velvet and they do all these things and they invite one boy.
Oh yeah.
And then they name the period and
jokes
poor
on
thing.
them.
I mean, I feel bad for that kid. He'll be traumatized
it's
for the rest
exposure
of his
therapy.
Exactly. We should have invited the whole class of boys.
I just saw some comments come through about your comment of like, can I at least have a blowjob if you're on your period? Well, first of all, like, why is it weird to have sex on your period?
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't be gross or weird. Like, some people may be freaked out by seeing blood on their penis, which fine. Like, that's your prerogative.
Whatever.
But at the same time, like, almost every guy I've ever dated just assumed I didn't want to have sex on my period. And I'm like, I personally don't care. As long as you don't care, I don't care.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And they're like, oh, I just assumed you, like, because most women are ashamed of it and are like, don't look down there. Like, it's like, there's really.
It was uncomfortable for me.
Yes.
I mean, it's uncomfortable to the point where it's not as much pleasure.
Exactly.
But we do derive some emotional pleasure from being with our person.
Yes. And that's the thing. If you are physically uncomfortable while you're on your period, that doesn't mean to have sex, right?
Right.
But also, if you're okay with having sex on your period, it's also okay to talk about it and ask for it and, talk to your partner about it openly. But what I really love about what you were saying is having the compassion and empathy towards your partner. Like, stop being so fucking selfish. Like, and worrying about your own needs. What about my needs? If you're not caring about my needs, why should I care about your needs?
Exactly.
I'm going to be worried about if you're not going to help fulfill my needs, I will take care of my own needs. And you don't get the reciprocal if you're not going to help, right? So stop worrying about your dick getting wet one way or another and just start caring about your partner.
Most of them want to stick it in the butt anyway, and there's poo in there. I'd rather have blood than poo. But hey, we all know that I've expressed my opinions about bum sex. I love it. But anyway, I'm just kidding. I can't understand where Mickey is coming from. Mickey's saying, that the flow is so much that it's gross for them. And I get that. And, most women, like even Misty, said, no, thank you. I didn't always love it either. I would always have to put down a towel, and it wasn't always, it's just not the most comfortable time.
What I say is do what feels good to you. If it
Mhm.
doesn't feel good to have sex during your period, don't do it. If it feels good to have, like, I start getting really horny the second day into my cycle and
Right.
into my bleed. And then I'm like, I need to have sex because
Yeah.
I'm super horny because my hormones have shifted. Right.
Right.
Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for people. It just make it your own. Okay.
Mhm.
There's no one size fits all. Just get in touch with your body.
Just like a tampon.
Know what
No
feels
one
good.
size feels.
Oh my God. I'll never forget this one time. I was in high school and I was on like a girls' trip with the school. And my one friend asked for like a super tampon, like because she was bleeding so heavy. She literally looked at the teacher and was like, it's not because I'm loose or anything. And I'm just like, fuck, like thinking back to these, like what women are being told. It's like, you don't need a bigger tampon because you're loose. No, you need a bigger tampon because you're bleeding more. Like just the whole, it makes me so angry. But
I had a horrifying experience. My girls, as they were growing up, were appalled that all I would ever wear, unless I absolutely had to, was a pad. They thought that was the grossest thing because I could never wear a tampon. It hurt tremendously. And I had a really traumatic experience. We went on a trip in high school. I think it was FBLA or track or something, and I had my fucking period, and I brought my swimsuit. Everybody was getting in the pool at the hotel, everybody, and if I didn't go, they would know. And I'm freaking out, and my girlfriend said, we have tampons, we'll just give you one. And I said, I don't know what a tampon is. I don't know.
Never used it.
I've never used one. And they're like, oh my God, here, we'll show you.
Yeah.
So they go to show me, and it was, just fucking awful getting it in, for one.
Yeah.
The whole time I swam, it pinched, it was painful, it hurt. And then when I went to get out and take it out, I thought I was going to die. It didn't want to come out. It had grabbed onto the side of my
because it expanded. Yeah.
It didn't want to let go. And it felt like I was ripping my insides out. I was crying. I had 3 or 4 of my girlfriends sitting on the floor in the bathroom with me.
That's fucking supportive. That's a strong girl group. Yeah.
They're like, suggestions, let's try this, let's try that. It's okay.
Yeah, I would have got the coconut oil and then like, we're gonna slip this baby right out.
Oh my God, it was traumatic. And I've never really been able to wear them since. I would once in a while, like if I needed to, but man, was that a rough go.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
Yeah, and then they have the cups now, which is really great in my opinion.
I don't know how the hell that would get in there and stay in there.
They're squishy and then it expands. Yeah. But
can you feel it?
No, not at all.
Really? Well,
not at all.
Well, you have to practice.
They have different size ones, right? For people who have smaller vaginal canals, etc.
Wow.
But because we only have a couple of minutes left.
Yeah.
What I do really want to say is use talking about your menstrual cycle as an opportunity to get to know each other, to create more empowerment within your partnership, to support other women, to support your female partner, given the stages that they're going through, and just like really show some compassion and interest and curiosity. A lot of men are like, this isn't my problem because I don't have my period. But what I'll say is 50% of, I want to say more than 50% of the population is women, maybe a small percentage, but maybe 51% of the population is women. So like, it is also your problem. You're interacting with us all of the time. If you have a female partner, you're living with them, or maybe you're not living with them. But if you are, like, it is still your duty and your job as an elevated, evolved partner to know these things, to support your female partner as much as possible, what their needs are, and care for them.
And be sensitive, be kind.
Yes.
It's not an easy thing to go through. Our bodies are constantly shifting and changing.
And we have to pretend like none of it's happening.
Exactly. So have a little grace and compassion for the women in your life. We all go through a fucking lot, and let's just be kind for once.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that men aren't kind.
No,
They
are.
can be. I don't,
Yeah.
it just understanding a little bit more where you may not fully understand.
Yes.
So,
That's a gift you can give to
yes,
to a female, is being like,
absolutely.
I want to talk about it.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, Christina, thank you for coming on today to talk about this. It's the bloody fucking truth right before Halloween. Hope everybody has an amazing Halloween this year. Next week we have tantric specialist coming on.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to listen.
Very excited. So love everybody who comes and participates. You guys come and comment, and I fucking love it. It is
Thank you.
amazing. I love each one of you. If I could show you love more, I so would. Anybody who has any episode suggestions, send me a quick email. It's 50shadesofbullshit@gmail.com. You have to spell out the word 50, and you have to spell SHYT instead of SHIT. Anyway, thank you for coming again, Christina. We love you. We'll be back soon. And until next week, let's keep it real.
All right.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends, like and follow us on Instagram at 50shades_bullshit and Facebook at 50shadesofbullshit. Thanks so much for listening, and we really hope to see you again next week.